The Detroit Pistons are most likely going to draft Jaden Ivey in this summer's NBA draft. Here's why it's probably going to happen, and here's why it makes sense too. Ivey is a super explosive and athletic combo guard whose biggest potential is in his scoring upside, and I draw a ton of similarities to Donovan Mitchell. When you ask most people, they would say the consensus top 3 prospects for this year's NBA draft are Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, and Jabari Smith Jr. at Auburn in whatever order you want to put them. But I think Jaden Ivey not only belongs in the conversation, but is in the conversation more than people think. Like any prospect, Jaden has his areas to improve on, mostly being his in-between game in the mid-range and definitely control the offense. He can definitely get a little over-aggressive on offense at times, but his raw athleticism, speed, and physical skill set combined with his improved three-point shot from 26 to 38% from last year to this year, and being the only clear top-tier guard in the draft as the other 3 in the top 4 are forwards and bigs, all align him to be drafted higher than people expect. Rumors are only rumors, but there have been a ton of reports from insiders like Chad Ford, who derives his content from speaking to scouts and front office personnel, saying that Jaden Ivey has just as much potential to go number 1 as some of the other top 4 prospects, especially with the Detroit Pistons. Will he go number 1? I'd probably lean no as of right now, but I think there's a very likely jump he could jump to 2 or 3 depending on who is drafting and what they need. Now let's look at the Pistons specifically. Before the trade deadline even happened, the Pistons were rumored to have Jabari Smith as their number 1 prospect and Jaden Ivey as their number 2 choice. Now let's fast forward to now after the trade deadline has happened and the Pistons have made a couple moves and also not made a couple moves that are likely going to say a lot of things. They traded some depth and late picks to go get Marvin Bagley, who is still young and has good upside, but they clearly see good potential in him within their rotation of the future. And maybe even bigger, they still have Jeremy Grant on their roster. Will they still have him after the summer is over in the offseason? Not really sure, but as of right now, he's on their roster, and their roster is forward heavy. Look at their depth chart. I think it could be hard and overcrowded if they add a Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, or Paolo Banchero to that because they would clog their front court, similar to what the Kings have been known to do in the last 5 or 6 years, clog their backcourt, just kind of the opposite in positions there. And now look at where the Kings are. They had to basically trade one of their potential franchise-changing centerpieces in Tyrese Halliburton away to focus on the other guards that they have. So the Pistons would, and no one really would want to find themselves in that position moving forward. So now that we know that there is a clear gap at the guard position for the Pistons outside of Cade Cunningham, what about the play style? How are they going to fit into the lineup? Cade Cunningham is not super athletic. He's very skilled. He's a playmaker. He's a primary ball handler. I think Jaden Ivey is going to play best off of a player like that. I compare Cade's style to guys like Luka that love to spread the ball around and make everyone better. And I think Jaden Ivey would thrive off that, and I think the Pistons would thrive off that as well. Now, it all depends on how the rest of the college basketball season goes and where the Pistons do end up in the draft, but for conversation's sake, let's say that the Pistons do end up where they're supposed to at probably pick 2, 3, or maybe 4. If they were to draft Jaden Ivey, a core of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley, with some extra picks and other depth pieces for rotation or potential trade like Kelly Olynyk and Hamidou Diallo, this could be a team with a very bright future and similar to where the Grizzlies have gotten to now. So I am on board with the Pistons drafting Jaden Ivey, and unless anything as crazy is going to change the rest of the season, I think it's going to happen.